Yeah.
And it's pretty stout sized bowl.
That is pretty
And,
big, yeah.
And I got it at an antique store and cleaned up the leather and cleaned up the stem, and the wood cleaned up pretty nice. So it doesn't get too hot. I don't know what's underneath the leather. There might be 5,000 fills. Doesn't matter to me. And I have some Cornell and Deal Epiphany in there. So
is that a pot style pipe?
I would say, yeah. You can see it there.
This one is from the 40s by a radio personality named Tom Howard, who was also a pipe carver.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Nice.
Very nice. Smoke's great. So about 80 years old.
Wow. And what you burning in it today? 3 noggins, or Rattray's 3 noggins. Awesome.
And this is from 1986.
Wow. That's a real deal.
And antique.
I need to get some older tobacco to go along with how old I am.
Well, today I'm smoking some corn cobs. So this is one of them. And it's not my largest corn cob. I have one which is even bigger. And it's pretty old. I don't know if you can see it. It says Sweet Cob Pipe right here on the bottom. So it's not Missouri Meerschaum. It's one of the companies which don't exist anymore or been absorbed by Missouri Meerschaum. I have a couple of other old pipes. This is Busher's corn cob, also pretty old, and that's H&B.
Is that the original stem on there, Dimitri, or is that a replacement stem?
Everything is original. Everything is original. H&B, you see, it actually has a bone mouthpiece, so it can tell you it's pretty old pipe. So H&B had been absorbed by Missouri Meerschaum. And I have another interesting pipe here to show you. Aristocab from 1970s. It's aluminum pipe with a corn cob insert. You see? It unscrews here on top. And there are replacement corn cob insert bolts which go in there.
Dimitri, that's a pretty nice little pipe you got. I've been trying to find one of those myself.
Yeah, I found it on eBay. Well, I love corn cobs, especially old ones. I have some corn cob pipes which are older than I am. And guys in our pipe club know that I have probably maybe like 30, 40 different corn cobs, mostly old ones. That's another old Missouri Meerschaum with original bamboo shank. They don't make these anymore.
So that's a Missouri Meerschaum with the bamboo.
Yeah, they used to make them long time ago. I don't know exactly how old it is, but I know they had made them in a long time.
Well, thank you for sharing.
That's awesome, man. There's a beautiful looking stem on that one, the bone. Nice.
Yeah, that one with a bone mouthpiece. Yeah, I have few with a bone mouthpiece.
John Torpy, John, you were holding one up there. What do you got?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've got my it's a 7L author, and I'm smoking some of the Sillam's Blue.
I love 7L pipes.
Yeah, it's very good.
So don't be shy, gentlemen. By the way, okay, this is a good moment for me to pause and just do some of that Zoom updating. And then for some of the fellows who are new this week, first of all, if you're new this week, I just want to say welcome. It's really nice to week by week meet some new people. I get so many messages and emails from both new and previous members saying this is really cool to meet new people, and so I'm really grateful that you're here, and Sharon, and it's been so great up to this point. Everybody's very mellow and very welcoming. So welcome and thanks for being here. Just a little bit of I wouldn't say rules. I'm really trying not to have any rules in this experience, but some guidelines, and that's basically just don't be a dick. I mean, like that's pretty much all it is. And,
I second that.
You second that? Okay. I mean, I kind of feel like we're all grown-ups and we all know what is.
We'll see you guys.
Yeah, okay, Peter's out. It's like, okay. It's the only reason why he came is so that he could just be a jerk to everybody. It's like.
I'll just keep my microphone on mute. That way you don't have to.
Yeah, thanks, Terry. I appreciate that.
Feel free
You can say anything you want to, just as long as
you're
you're muted. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Feel free to be a jerk as long as you're respectful to the rest of us here.
Yeah.
So all I gotta do is be a respectful jerk? I think I can
You can
do that.
that's true. That's true. In my humble opinion, you suck more than anybody. So yeah. So like let everybody have a chance to talk. I really I have a problem with talking. Some of you are getting to know me. You know that I talk a lot. I actually do belong to a 12-step program called On and On and On. So I try to rein it in and not dominate the conversations, although sometimes I try to jump in and keep things moving. But just don't be shy, jump in, ask questions, talk to each other, and give everyone a chance to have the floor kind of thing. Does that make sense? That's pretty much.
Yep, that's agreed.
I agree, DDR, and I think you're doing a fantastic job with this club.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Absolutely. I second that. Fabulous.
I'm having the best time.
Oh yeah,
ever.
I'm having a great time.
That's good, Alexei. I'm glad. My wife, doesn't really want me to smoke at all, but she comes.
Oh.
She says, I can see how much fun you're having, so let it be. So that's been really great. The other thing now is a bit of a technical thing, and that is the operation of Zoom itself. Zoom is now becoming such a popular platform for communication that they're going through a cycle of security measures that they keep implementing so that people don't hack into it and whatnot. The most recent security measure is that if I put everybody on mute, which I'll do in a second here, I can no longer unmute everybody. So you have to do your own unmuting.
All right.
And there's a couple of ways of doing it. I can ask if you want to be unmuted, but it's kind of like, it's quicker for you just to unmute yourself if you want to say something, right? So there's a couple of ways of doing that. If you're on a mobile device, what the heck did I do with my phone? Oh, if you're on a phone, right? It's pretty much the same as it's always been. You hit the microphone to mute or unmute yourself. That really hasn't changed. And so you can just go directly there. If you're on a desktop or laptop, there's two ways of doing it. Mousing over your little picture, you'll see a menu pop up in the upper right-hand corner, which will allow you to unmute yourself. Or, and this is really cool, if you haven't, probably everybody knows this already, you can simply hit the space bar and hold it down, and it will temporarily unmute you, and you can just, like an old style CB microphone, you can just hold it down and talk. So there's a couple different ways. You don't need permission from anybody. If you've used Zoom as a meeting tool or an educational tool where we have raise hand functions and all that stuff, this is not the place where we care about that stuff. So just, go ahead and do it. I encourage it. That's really all I've got to say. But by next week, if you've got an old version of Zoom that is not up to version 5.0, you will need to update it to at least 5.0. Otherwise, you may not get into future meetings. That's a Zoom thing because of their security stuff. So just make sure that you're updating to the most recent version.
Can I point out a couple things I just discovered?
Yes.
With the space bar, this should be obvious, but it wasn't to me. You have to actually be in the program if you got something going on another screen. For some reason, it doesn't work. The other thing I discovered, which is the important one, if you have the chat window open, at least for my computer, it won't unmute me when I push the space bar. I have to close the chat window.
Ah, I did not know that. See, they're going through so many almost weekly security updates that I got to really keep up with them to keep it figured out. All right. Well, we'll have some time later on, I think, to do some more sharing about, what we're smoking today and stuff like that. I find it really, really curious. I love, like, I've learned a lot about different tobaccos that I wanted to try. Is John Horton here today? John, are you here? So John, I sort of stalk on the Facebook pages, and he's like a full-on early morning pipe smoker. He just, like, every time I see him posting something, like he's got another pipe full of EMP, and he keeps talking about it. So I'm like, all right, I got to try this out. And I did this week, and I like it. In fact, in this guy, my second pipe, there we go. Peter's got it. Peter, what do you think, man? Do you like it? Obviously. But
I had to unmute. Yeah, I think it's great. I have more of this than anything. I will spice it up. I will throw in some nightcap. If I'm a little later in the day or whatever, I'll zip it up a little bit. But just as a go-to solid choice for me, I think it's great.
So I'm going to do a review. I've been like trying my hand at tobacco reviews. The first two didn't get me thrown off of YouTube, so I figure I'm already ahead of the game. But I'm going to review Early Morning Pipe, and this is my opening take. You want to hear my opening take? So I had this whole concept of English blends being like English, like Sherlock Holmes and a study with a fireplace and a bunch of books in the background. But then I put my nose in it, and I'm an old country boy at heart. I was born in Oregon and grew up on a farm and whatnot. If you like the smell of Early Morning Pipe, you just might be a cowboy.
I would say I'm guilty there.
Yeah.
Sure,
what do you think?
My
you know what I'm talking about?
My wife actually said, when I opened it in, I said, it kind of smells like a campfire. And she said, let me have a whiff. And she was actually really, really happily surprised by the smell. And she said, I might even smoke that. And I thought it smells quite bold, but yeah, for some reason, she immediately took to it. So it's apparently friendly to everyone.
It's not friendly to my wife. That any blend that has Latakia in it, she will refuse that I smoke it in the house, except in the shop.
That's the Latakia that's the barnyard smell.
Apparently she doesn't like the barnyard.
She's not a cowgirl.
Well, I know even a lot of pipe smokers don't like smell of Latakia, but I love it. I even smoked straight Latakia and I enjoyed it.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Now the Latakia part, I do enjoy. I'm a Virginia Creek smoker for the most part, but Dimitri, I just want to thank you for posting the pictures of the New York Pipe Club. It's great to see Lou and all the guys on the Facebook. So I appreciate you doing that for us guys that aren't able to be there.
Awesome. So my point was that I really am grateful for how much I'm learning from the group here. And I think one of the things that's been so cool is getting to learn from people who are even a little bit more expert than y'all are. I mean, I am no kind of an expert whatsoever. I have zero. Me and Andre are basically in the same boat. But there are some really cool people that we've had a chance to meet, right, with our guest speaker program. And today it is my pleasure to introduce. I'm trying to see if Jeremy is here. Rush, are you here? There we go. There's Rush. So we have the good fortune of having two guest speakers, not one but two, and this all came about because of several weeks ago. Trevor, there is Trevor. Trevor, I used to know a guy who looked just like you, and then I don't know what happened. You went somewhere. So Trevor had this brilliant idea that we should watch Father the Flame, the documentary about pipes, pipe carving, pipe shows, all that sort of good stuff. And I had a chance to talk to the director, Chad Terpstra, and Chad was really super generous and super nice about allowing us to sign up for a group viewing and then watch the movie. And that was like movie night online with a bunch of guys. I loved it. So we watched the film, and I thought it would be a great follow-up for us to be able to talk to the producer and director. And that's who we have as our guest speakers this week. So Chad Terpstra is the director and co-producer, and Jeremy Rush, who I guess just goes by Rush, yeah? And Rush is the executive producer, I'm assuming?
Producer.
The producer.
Just producer, yeah. We had a handful of other execs for producing.
Gotcha. So I've done a bit of production work in the past. So executive producer means you just found money for the thing, and that's basically what the executive producer does. He
Here's our
doesn't
money.
even know anything about actual movies. He just finds the money. But so here we have both of these gentlemen. I want to welcome you guys and just say thank you for being our guest speakers. I'm going to let you sort of take the floor. So fellas, I'm going to put everybody's microphones on mute, except for Rush and Chad, and then put it on, there we go. Put it on spotlight view, or speaker view, so that they will be the only ones who keep popping back and forth. At some point, if you guys want to ask questions of them, just jump in. And then after you ask a question, turn your mic back off. That's it. All right. Gentlemen, the floor is yours. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a little late on knowing about this. I just found out about it. I don't know. When did you tell me? Like Thursday, Chad?
Something like that.
About it? Yeah. And I hadn't seen his response or text about it until like yesterday or something. And I was like, oh, I would love to be a part of this. So I'm happy I saw it, and I'm here, and I got the link to jump in on this. So thank you very much for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm kind of curious how the screening online went. Have people seen it before, or was that the first time? David, do you know?
Actually, I think it was a mixed bag. There were quite a lot of us who had seen it at least once, but then a bunch of guys who said they'd never seen it, and we had a bit of a conversation about it afterwards. I don't know, some of you other fellas want to jump in and talk about your thoughts on the documentary?
I would love to, because after I seen Father the Flame, I'll tell you something funny. I watched Father the Flame in a Casa de Habanos here in the Netherlands. So it's actually cigar launch, and I was sitting there with my laptop watching your documentary. And I actually bought my first pipe after I saw it. So you're to blame. And if my wife starts bitching that I spent too much money, Chad, I still got your email. I'll be sure to send them to you.
You can just direct her to me.
I will. But honestly, yeah, it's the reason I started smoking a pipe. Just there's let's say there's a lot of opinions about the documentary itself, but I think the thing that hit me most is that it's a very honest, very well illustrated way of showing, let's say, the passion and the peace of mind that people that smoke pipes have, or the way they look at the world. They are just more at peace with themselves, or at least that's how it seems. And I think that was really well portrayed in a very artistic way in this movie, and it got me really excited. It for some reason I thought I should get in on this, so it greatly inspired me. Thanks.
That's awesome to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you indeed. And I will say thank you and you're welcome as well, just as a joke with your wife not being excited. But yeah, all emails to Chad. All emails to Chad. No, just kidding. Just kidding. You can CC me on those as well if you need to.
If she sees the pictures, she'll go, of course it was two bearded guys that got you into smoking again.
That's awesome.
What can you say?
Yeah. So one of the things I guess we could start with is like how the project came about, which is really not intentional in any way. But Rush and I had independently, we're both friends in the film community in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and we'd independently gotten into pipes just by ourselves and randomly, and we were at a karaoke night one night, just drinking and having a good time, and everyone went outside to smoke, and we both pulled out a pipe and we're like, wait, do you smoke a pipe? So we like instantly were like, well, that's amazing, that's great. So we had some like pipe meetups and stuff, and then one of Rush's friends is the nephew of Lee Erk, and he approached him about his uncle and said that you should make a short film about this guy.
I will interject.
Yes.
That's not entirely true.
Okay.
He didn't say that. It is true. I happen to be smoking my pipe with one of my best friends from undergrad, and he was curious. He's like, "When did you start smoking a pipe?" And can everyone hear me too, by the way? Yes? Okay, cool. I said, I don't know. I've had it for a few years and I don't know. And I happen to be smoking my new little pipe that I'd gotten. And he said, well, talk to Matt. Matt's one of his friends that he did his clinicals with and when he moved up to Grand Rapids where we live. And he said his uncle makes pipes for a living. So Matt showed up and started talking to me about his Uncle Lee. And I was just fascinated. It's just a whole nother world, subculture I never even thought of or experienced. And I just couldn't get Lee out of my head. So I was like, this would be a great opportunity to do a short film about this guy and what he does. He travels the world. He's known by a lot of people within the community. And so actually, it took a little bit of prodding from me to Chad, because I approached Chad once. It's like, hey, what do you think about doing this idea about a pipe? This guy who lives in the UP makes pipes. And he's like, sounds like a lot of work. I don't know. And I came back around months later and we started talking and riffing. And so then we started researching in his office. And we're just like, no one's done anything. You got people doing reviews on pipes and tobacco,
right,
beer and pairings. And we just kind of looked at each other like, we could totally do this.
Yeah, it was kind of like, let's before we do anything, let's just see what else is out there. Like, let's check out all the other pipe films on Netflix and YouTube and wherever. And it was just like crickets. It was like, wait, no one has like made a film about pipes yet. Like, I mean, one that has distribution and is like widely available. There's tons of stuff on beer or whiskey or all sorts of other things that you could make films on, but nothing was on pipes. So it was like very fertile ground to just kind of go and do whatever. And even if we made a bad film, we knew that it would be still the best one.
Right. Yeah. And so like at that point, I set up a call. I hit up Lee on Facebook because Matt was like, just hit him up on Facebook. He will gladly talk to you. And then Chad and I set up a call with him and talked for about an hour. And Lee was very adamant about not having a film done about himself. He's like, no, you can't do this. You gotta, and he was very adamant about us coming to Chicago that year, because I think we called him in like February.
Right. And
we were sitting at my house talking with him. He goes, "Dude, come down to Chicago. You got to meet all these other people." And he wasn't just like, stateside. He's like all the people from Europe and Japan. Like, there's so much more you guys don't know. And it was like, okay, cool. And Chad was able to go that year and met up with Lee and started filming some stuff. And it was just the rabbit hole after that. I mean, we were just pipe smokers. We didn't know anything about the community. You know, pipe names, tobacco names. We just knew what we smoked from the local tobacco shop we went to, which RIP. But you know, but luckily we've had a few others pop up and we can get tobacco still from them too locally. But yeah, so it kind of cascaded into that. Yeah, it is a wild ride. And we have so much more to offer too, within, you know, a quote unquote mini series. And we've already released 3 within our YouTube channel because we had so much content after the film. So I don't know, Chad, correct me if I'm wrong, but we probably got like 9 more to put out.
Yeah, 9 really solid little shorts. And then there's probably another half a dozen to a dozen just extraneous things like interviews and yeah, just, you know, little things that we can put out. And then we've toyed around with the idea of just, you know, shooting a little more here and there, exploring updates to the community and like the tobacco side of things and stuff like that. But our first goal is just to get out the stuff that we already have that's just really amazing stories. That it was very difficult. So we cast like a really wide net for the film initially, where it was like, we don't really know what the story is going to be. We knew we wanted it to be widely appealing, so it wasn't just for the pipe community, but for like the uninitiated, and like the so that someone who doesn't smoke a pipe could appreciate it. So, and Lee was such a fascinating character. It's like, how can you not explore him more? So it was like, we knew Lee would be sort of like a fulcrum, and then, but the rest of it was like, we could go down all sorts of different roads, and we interweave a lot of different stories. So it was a wide net, and like, you know, we explored pipe smoking in general, and there's pipe making, obviously, and yeah, just all sorts of different paths that you could go down. So with every interview, it was like a long interview of just exploring different sides of the industry and the world. So we ended up with like a lot of really good material, and even some whole characters that were just completely cut out just for time's sake. And it was a difficult choice to like do that, because our first cut was 4 hours long and completely unwatchable from beginning to end.
True story. I took a couple naps, I'll say that.
Yeah. By the end, we're like, stop. But it was all variations on the same theme. So it was kind of like, how do you pare it down to just be the more essential stuff? And then our first like sort of working cut was like 2.5 hours or so. And then from there, we had some outside help that kind of pared it down to like 9 or 80 minutes, I think it is now. So it's very, very distilled, which I think is good in a lot of ways, in that it removes one barrier to entry for people that don't necessarily want to watch a whole, you know, epic journey about pipes, you know, the people outside the pipe world. So it's a little more accessible in that sense. And then, yeah, just very tight with the edit. But it was a very difficult time. That's part of what took so long.
So let me ask a question. After the fact, now that the film has been edited and, you know, shown, how would you now explain what the story is that you're telling?
Yeah, good question. That's that's something that's hard to sum up, and that's what we struggled with. Like,
that was always the struggle.
Yeah, it's like the elevator pitch. Like, what is it? Well, it's about pipes, and it's kind of about life. And it's, yeah, I don't know. It's like we kind of use pipes as a vehicle to talk about life and like some of the more important aspects of it. And that's how I was approaching it artistically, I suppose. It's just, it's such a, I don't know, sort of mysterious topic and arcane topic that it has a spiritual bend to it in a way, just like the you know, allure of smoke and like how it drifts up to the sky, and it's been used in like smoke itself has been like part of religious ceremonies since the beginning of time. So it's like it had that going for it. It was like, wow, we can really explore some deeper topics here. But as far as like how to sum that up, I mean, we there's like a synopsis that we boiled it down to that was something about using the pipe as an exploration of life and or family and love and stuff like that. So it's kind of there in the synopsis, but yeah, it's hard. I don't know. I'm just not good at that pitch.
Yeah, it's difficult because there's so many different themes within the film, and like even as Chad said, like there's the whole spiritual aspect. Like we could have gone off onto a tangent, and that was one of the things we had to cut immediately because it was just like it's so boring. It wasn't engaging. Like there were some great elements to it, but it's like, dude, this is killing us. And you know, it took a few other people to kind of like really say, hey, cut it out. And you know, and Chad and I would have arguments about things all the time. Some stuff would stay, some stuff wouldn't, and you know that's how it is with any film. Really, I mean, you have someone who we all have our own visions of it. Like there's the idea we had to start, then there's the film you actually film, and then there's the film you edit, and it's completely different than when you started out and you're like, whoa, wait, where'd we go? And then breaking it down from there. And it's, if anything, I would say the key to any good content is story. And it's like, what is the overall story in this? And there's so many different stories that are intertwined in this. But at the end of the day, for me, it's family. There is a huge family element to this story with everybody, whether it's the lonely old man or the Italian briar cutter to the Danish royal family, as it's said, and it's family. And right. I think I think my favorite comment after the film was released, someone posted, oh, it's about smoking pipes. I'm like, did you not watch the trailer? I like it. It's just someone being a troll, but it was so amusing to me to think, yeah, I don't know what trailer you watched, but yeah, I mean, so we were trying to go over the, you know, a little bit of history, a little bit of the culture. There's a little bit of spirituality in the film still, but really it's about the family and the art and the craft of passing down. And it's sort of this lost thing. I mean, Chad would say that all the time. Like, this is just like a lost art form in some respects. I mean, and I think part of that's just because smoking itself has been so vilified that pipe and cigar smoking has been lumped into it. And it's like there's so much more to this than we really know, or that, you know, people who don't smoke a pipe or a cigar know. Mm-hmm. If that helps. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and I wanted to share. It was like when I sort of discovered pipes, I was like, wow, this is really relaxing, really meditative. It's not the villain that people make smoking out to be, because it's not something where you're meant to inhale. It's more of just like the aesthetic experience and the aroma and the ritual, you know, and it was like, why aren't people doing this to a degree, you know, more? And why is it something that, like, I mean, to me, it was a large part of the icon of like your father or grandfather with the newspaper, that like Americana image of the dad smoking the pipe. And that was like a big piece of it for me that I wanted to explore, is like that icon. And yeah, it's just where does that go, I guess? And why did it disappear, you know, from popular life?
That's a question I know Bart brings up a lot as well. So Bart, I want to maybe
yeah, I'll go for it. So basically, whenever we have a speaker, I ask them the same question, and then it's, how do you see the future of smoking pipes? And I think you've already mentioned some of the problematic aspects of this, like the fact that it's quite unpopular in public opinion, but also that maybe not everybody's getting the essence of the craft and the experience that it's meant to be. I think you put it very well. It's not typically about consuming tobacco. It's part of the act, but it's not the whole. You know, it's more a medium to something else. And are new people still catching on to this? And how do you see the future when it comes to pipe smoking?
I'll go first, and then Chad can, if that's all right. Yeah, I don't obviously see a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon. But I definitely have seen, prior to the film coming out, even insofar as my current roommate just started smoking a pipe randomly, and I saw this and I hit him up on Instagram, and I'm just like, when did you start smoking a pipe? Oh, by the way, this is happening. And he was just like, bro, you holding out on me? I'm like, dude, I haven't talked to you in years. But he is the guy that jumped headfirst into this. And we have our own little tobacco lounge now that he's moved in. And he's actually he's the president of our pipe club now. And it's fantastic. And he seems to have like the taste for different tobaccos and the blends and everything else. And so it's encouraging. You know, he's about 10 years younger than I am too. So it's really encouraging. And so we just have conversations with people about it. Like we're not here to get you to start smoking a pipe. It's all about having a conversation. I mean, even, you know, for those of you who've been to the Chicago Pipe Show, at least once or every year that it's happened, it's people from all different walks of life. And you just sit there and have a conversation. You could be like, I make headstones as my day job. And I can sit there and I'll be talking to some guy that's a lawyer who's an international lawyer, and we're just having a common ground with what a pipe, and we share stories with each other and we get along, and like it's just like all these barriers just kind of fall. And I think that's what's missing within our culture. I mean, because if you looked, you know, 50 plus years ago, everyone smoked a pipe. Man and woman smoked pipes. And it was more so just a relaxing thing. It was a contemplative thing. It was come home, kick off your shoes, put on the slipper, have a pipe, or you smoke it all day. I mean, it varies for everybody. And, you know, with having a film like this, I think it's a good outlet for people to have a better understanding, to go, oh, okay, it's not what I really thought it was. And I've had a few people who've watched it that don't even smoke, and they're not even encouraged to smoke after the fact, but very thankful for a better understanding. I definitely have had a few friends who are like, now I want a pipe, direct me. And we go from there. And if they stick with it, they stick with it. If they don't, they don't. But it definitely, go ahead.
Let me open up that question a bit more, because this I totally get. And like I said, I think I'm one of those people inspired by this movie, or at least for a very big part. Let me broaden that question for you, because I think you have a unique perspective on this, since you've met so many people very seriously involved in the craft. I think if you look at guys like Lee, who's obviously the last of his generation that will be doing this, because he simply doesn't have anyone to pass it forward to. And I think the same goes for Mimo, to be honest. You know, he's doing very special work, but I don't know whether there's a second Mimo out there. Let's put it like that.
Right.
How do you think that will influence the industry in the years to come? That basically the guys that really know their shit are slowly losing the battle.
Yeah, I think when we first started this, it was like 2012, and then I would go to the pipe show in Chicago every year, and it was pretty cool. It felt like a resurgence or like a reawakening, a rediscovering of the pipe, and there was a lot of younger people getting into it, younger pipe makers. Some of them Lee talks about as being mercenary, where they just want to do it for the money, but others were just really passionate about it and willing to learn. And I think that's still fairly true, but it has been very discouraging lately as well, just with a lot more regulations in the US, and it seems like pipes are always getting the short end of the stick when it comes to any sort of tobacco use restrictions. And it's like, you know, one after the other. It's like, oh man, it's one of the safest ways to use tobacco, but like always gets lumped in, or like, because of maybe big tobacco, you know, cigarette brands and stuff, they're able to lobby to push it down, and the politics of it are pretty disappointing. But there are, I think there are still a number of people that are trying to learn the craft as well as they can, but it's just a bit of an uphill battle, it seems like. Yeah, I hope people come along and take up the mantle. I mean, one example is like when I first got into it, I discovered Frog Morton across the pond by McClellan, and I was like, oh, this is amazing tobacco. I love this, and it became my favorite. And then I tried to get it a couple of years later. It's like, oh, that's not available. There's a war going on in Syria, and that's where that tobacco came from. But then even like McClellan itself shut down a couple of years ago, and he didn't pass it on to anyone, which was like, oh, that's kind of a bummer, because that, you know, is some of my favorite tobacco. And his reasoning that he gave was that the leaf just isn't cultivated as finely as he wants it to be anymore. Like, he can't find the growers who know the right process to pick it at, you know, it's a much more labor intensive thing to like go through the field several times. You make several passes to get the leaves that are ready for curing, versus now it's sort of more mechanized, where it's like we just take it all at once and throw it in a can, more or less. Or like that's the picture he painted.
Hey, Chad.
And, yeah.
I apologize for interrupting you. I want to do a little just announcement here, because a few of the guys, this happens every week. I encourage people to come when they can, leave when they need to. So I know that guys have to run off and, you know, do family stuff and whatnot. Tomorrow's a holiday, or Monday's a holiday and whatnot. I do want to make the announcement before some of you have to leave. I will not be here next week. I'm working. I'm at a conference. And so pretty sure one of the other guys, maybe Steven?
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, Steven, you were nominated by Bart, by the way. So just to let you know.
You were.
Yeah.
It'd be my pleasure, but Bart's going to have to co-facilitate.
There we go. All right. See, put the two. So those guys are going to be here next week. I'll be back the following week, June 6th. And when we come back June 6th, we have another very, very special, an additional very special guest speaker. Per Jensen from MacBaron, the president of MacBaron, will be here to speak to us about MacBaron and his whole take on sourcing tobacco and and what he sees as the future of the tobacco part of the pipe industry. So anyway, that's a quick announcement. And Chad, I apologize for interrupting, but I wanted to let the guys know before they left if they had to leave.
Yeah, for sure, no problem. Yeah, so I'm not super in tune with all the elements of the industry, but just from what I see in popular culture, it's not taking off as much as I would like to see it. I mean, I love it though. I still represent however I can. So like going around a campfire or whatever, I'll bring out the pipe. Everyone's smoking something else or various things, but it's like as soon as you bring out the pipe, and it's from the day I started, it was like, whoa, a pipe. You can do that. So it's fun in that way, and it like people gradually catch on if it's for them, and some people friends of mine have just fully embraced it and run with it and stuff, and that's cool to see. So I don't know, it's a bit uncertain, I guess, the future of the pipe world, but I'm glad that at least the movie's out there to just represent,
Yeah, I'll say this too. I see a comment from G, and I'm not far off from his thought. He says non-existent, and yeah, we are definitely the minority. Numbers are reducing, and especially with all the political stuff. And he says he's from Australia, and dude, I feel for you, brother. It sucks because it's so expensive. Like I think we're very fortunate for us who live in America to be able to have the products we can, because outside the US, most countries don't even allow bulk anymore. And it's saddening. And he says he can't even bring tobacco in from overseas. And it's like, it's super disappointing because it's almost like tobacco was taking on what alcohol was pre-prohibition.
Yeah.
And it's kind of mind-boggling because it's like everything in moderation. And yes, some of us abuse alcohol, some of us abuse tobacco. And it's like, how do you, with that juxtaposition, how do you guys in the legislation go that route? And it sucks because as premium tobacco users, like we just get lumped in, and we do have people, fighting for us and whatnot. But it almost feels like sometimes it falls on deaf ears, or we just don't have the right people with the right voice. And I maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I'm not as involved in that aspect. When it comes to legislation, I just know like within the last few years, the FDA came in and decided to start, putting the smack down on us. And it's just like, why do you, part of me is like, why do you guys even exist? Get out of here.
I think most legislation is made on tobacco in general, and that's just also to let's say steer the public opinion in a certain way, because smokers in general are on the demise. And I've noticed this in Europe particularly because simply I'm not that familiar with how the US is reacting to these things. But being a tobacco smoker in general, any form, doesn't matter. It's almost like there's a witch hunt out for you, just in general. And I think that's why legislation is not making the distinction between, let's say, a cigarette smoker or a pipe smoker or a cigar smoker. These are very different types of smokers with very different needs. I think that I smoked cigarettes when I was younger too, and it was hitting a very different spot than a pipe or a cigar is. But the public doesn't know that. They see it as tobacco.
Yeah, I want to go ahead. Whoever else was about to speak.
Okay, I want to add a little bit about what Chad said about McClelland tobaccos. Well, the first thing, McClelland was known for its amazing Virginia tobaccos. Secret behind McClelland, Virginia, they were priming tobacco, same way as they prime tobacco for cigars. Usually pipe tobacco is stock cut, so they just cut down whole plant and dry it and don't distinguish between the leaf coming from the top of the plant or from the bottom of the plant. McLaren, they were priming tobacco, and in they were genius, they were not using Ligero. Ligero is the top leaf. They were using Viso and Seco, so like lower leaves, which are much smoother and milder. They not as high on nicotine. Leaf itself is thinner, and it gives much milder, smoother smoke. So there are three main reasons why McClellan Tobacco went out of business. Well, first, which Chad mentioned, that Red Virginia, which was in many McClellan blends, is no longer available. Nobody is willing to put so much work into getting that leaf and curing it properly, so it's no longer available. Second reason, regulations. FDA regulations are totally insane in the United States. They don't make any sense. And in part, big tobacco companies are to blame for this. Big tobacco has pretty strong lobby, and they're destroying premium tobacco business. So basically, they get rid of any competition. They concentrate on cigarettes, and commercially produced cigarettes have only about 60% of tobacco and 40% of non-tobacco products. They don't answer to consumers. They don't answer to tobacco makers. They just answer to shareholders. And third reason, Mike McNeil unfortunately has some health problems, and it was very difficult for him to continue the business. I really respect the decision to close the business and not to sell it to anybody. As Mike said, they don't want to, their name to be affiliated with inferior products. I really respect that. Lucky for me, I still have about 95 tins of different McClellan tobaccos and a few pounds of bulk McClellan tobacco.
Yeah, that's great, and that's sad to me. The idea that something that was good of this world.
I didn't want you sitting on it.
Something that's like something that is a good thing that took time and effort to learn how to cultivate is just disappearing. You know, where it's like the quality of products in general seems to go down, but like just the fact that it's a very clear cultivation or trade and craft that isn't being passed on is just kind of sad to me.
Hey fellas, I'm steering. This
Sure.
is me steering.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go for it. Go for it.
We will, because we'll have to have you back for another day, which is not a bad thing. But
right.
So
count us in.
I would really appreciate it if maybe you would chat with us in regards to the filming process and in regards to the
absolutely
behind the scenes. So like I said, I've had the good fortune to be involved in projects that were, you know, film based and documentary based and whatnot. And there's always these high point moments where it's like you capture something on film that you didn't expect. You walk away and you go, wow, I didn't know we'd get that, but that was really, that's going to make the movie. Can you talk to us about that maybe a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, there were dozens of things like that. It seems like we went in with a very exploratory viewpoint. It wasn't like, hey, we're experts and now we're going to make a film about what we know. It was the opposite. We were completely bewildered in a whole new world. And then we had to have people kind of steer us in different directions that would be like, hey, you should talk to these people. So one example was like meeting the Eversons. We were filming, I think, like 2013, the second year that we came back, and Rick Newcomb came and took us by the hand, and he gave us a copy of his book, and he was like, I want you to introduce you to these pipe makers from Denmark. And I was like, oh, really? Who are they? And he's like, you should know who they are if you're making a film about this. So that's like, we kind of, we met them that year, and then in the year following, we did an interview with them that year that didn't end up making it, but like the year following did more research, and then was like, oh yeah, we definitely need to film them. And we knew we wanted to go to Europe to film Mimo, because he was one of the first people that we met, and a big part of the process. So we're like, all right, let's hit up all these other places in Europe, and we made like a path from Denmark all the way through Germany and France, ending up in Italy, and that was their story certainly like makes the movie in a large way, and it was like something that we were totally led into. Another example is on our way through, like it was like yeah, people guiding us in different directions, but like Mimo was one of them, where he said like, if you're driving through France or close to it, you need to stop at the Chacombe factory or the Chapicomoy and meet Antoine. And we're like, really? Okay, that sounds good, I guess, if you want us to. And then we made that as part of the plan, but we only scheduled like a day for it because we had a really tight 2-week schedule going through all these locations. And it wasn't until we woke up that morning there, and we drove in at night through the mountains and everything in France. And St. Cloud is like nestled in the French mountains, and it is like gorgeous, but we didn't see it until the morning. We woke up, we're having breakfast at the hotel that they put us up in, and look out the window, and it's just like this, it looked like Rivendell or something, out of Lord of the Rings, where like the city was like floating above the clouds, and we're just like, oh, this is amazing. So from that moment on, we hit record and like barely stopped recording to the end of the day, and realized that like part of the way through, it's like, oh, this is also the birthplace of like the briar pipe. So really good thing that we stopped there. And it was just like one of those moments that, made it seem like we knew what we were doing, that we covered sort of the birthplace of the briar pipe and where they turned the first briar bowl. But it was very much happenstance and like and providence that even happened. But and he was just an amazing character, and he's probably going to be the next short film that we put out. That'll be like another 10-minute vignette on someone. So I don't know if you've got any other stories, Rush, or...
Yeah, I'll add to it. Because before Chad even was approached by Rick, I went down to Richmond for their second to last pipe show before they took a hiatus. And I was there to do research. Someone had mentioned to us that we should go down to Richmond and check out their pipe show. And so I went down basically for recon and met up with the guys from Richmond and hung out. They were so welcoming. Even other guys from the industry, Jeff and Eddie, who were out of Ohio, found out I was there. They hit me up like, let's go out for dinner. We're gonna go out and grab beers and smoke with the guys. I met Brian Levine, and then at that point, we're at the show full swing the next day, and I'm meeting like Smoking Pipes guys and everything else, and then at one point, Sykes grabs me and we sit down and we begin this conversation, and he starts asking me all these questions. And I said, dude, this is what I tell everybody. Like, we're filmmakers. We are new to this. I'm just a pipe smoker, and I had an idea that we should do a short film. And that's kind of where it was at that point too. Like, it wasn't even a full-length feature. It was, we're just going to do this on Lee, but Lee kept prodding us to go and move forward and ask more questions and meet new people. And Sykes is like, how come you're not doing anything on the Eversons? And I'm like, I don't even know who the Eversons are, bro. Like, no clue. And I said, it's good to know though. Like these are the things we need to know. These are the questions that people need to ask us. And so then it was great. Then Rick said, Chad, you need this. And so it just kind of like, we found ourselves separately, and then together it's like, all right, the Eversons are in. And there are so many other people that we filmed that you'll get to see later on. There are a handful of other people we did not get to film. And it's wild. Like I would love for us to do a piece on Mark Ryan and sort of his story behind buying the Perique farm and basically bringing that back from near extinction, because I think it's an interesting story to tell. I mean, I don't know the guy that well. I've hung out with him. I've talked to him a few times, but the little tidbits he's told us, like, there's potential for a great story. So, and those are the moments that you start seeing things start fleshing out, even though you haven't even rolled the camera yet. It's like, wow, okay, and then it's like, all right, Chad, let's do this, and then all right, and then there are other people. We just kept meeting other people like Jeff Graysick, who I think is like, I think between Chad and I is probably one of our other favorite characters in the film, and we had to cut him out. And I know Chad wasn't happy about it. I wasn't excited about it, but you know, our executive producer's like, you got to cut him. You know, it's like the term is kill your darlings, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna trust you. And I think it took us a little bit of talking to Chad about it, because Chad was not having it.
Yeah, for those of you who are non-filmmakers, the term is actually kill your children.
Well, see, and I used that, and someone said, no, it's not, it's kill your darlings. I'm like, yeah, but and it's a writing term. Film, it's kill your babies or kill your children. It's just like, and people are like, that's a bit drastic. I'm like, I'm not even gonna try and argue with you about it, but yeah, absolutely, it's exactly what it is. And because you're so in love with these people, like, you're not seeing the bigger picture, because, you know, all of a sudden we've got tunnel vision. We see what we want, but, you know, to tell a better story, how do we make that? And you have other people that outside coming in, like, you know, we had a few writing consultants on the film as well, to give us feedback. And so it was good and refreshing to have that. And, you know, I'll still echo Chad, like, the moments of France and then seeing the shots he got are just like mind blowing. My favorite shots are in France, and just some of the stills he's got of the clouds and the mountains and the city are just like, we've got something beautiful here. And even like the stuff you haven't seen of Germany yet is great too, with the interviews and the long smoke competition. It's mind blowing. And yeah, I mean, there's so much more we could talk about, I'm sure, but I'm not going to get into it. But yeah, I mean, we had a bunch of moments, like even insofar as just starting the film, like when we were up in the UP in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan with Lee for a long weekend. Well, maybe it was what, it doesn't matter. We were there for a weekend and filming, and it's just like, dude, we're doing it, and it's just like, it's happening, and they're spending time with him, and even our editor Scott, he would see things happen and go, you know, we had another guy helping film as well, and he'd go, go film that, go film that. Like, you see people's dad, or you see Mimo's dad, people walking away, and Chad was filming something else. Scott's like, dude, film that, and you see it in the film, and it's a beautiful shot of just people walking away. And you know, and I'll echo too. Someone wrote in here, so they were so glad we were able to catch Lars' story, and it was sad to find out that they both passed before the film came out. You know,
they did get to see a version of it though.
Yeah. I don't know if people ever did, but
no,
Lars definitely saw the work in progress screening we did in Chicago, which at that point was an hour and a half. If not maybe give or take 5 minutes. But yeah, I think at the end of the day though, we've got something beautiful, you know, with as short as it is, which is, it works perfect.
It's a really beautiful film. Steven had a question. Steve, why don't you jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. So you know, you touched a little bit on this earlier, and just like the spiritual nature of it, right? And I think everyone that I referred to had like the same reaction after viewing it. It was like, that was an incredibly like spiritual experience. Like you told the story extremely well, and it didn't feel like a data dump. My question really to both of you is, and you don't have to answer, you can say no, it was purely original, because that's exactly how at least I felt in terms of consuming it. But what did you have any influences or documentary influences that you said, you know, that really encapsulates something? This is kind of a vision that I want to bring in, something in that vein.
I think Chad had a lot visually, because his trade is a cinematographer. I'm more producing side. So, you know, I watch strange documentaries all the time that, you know, wouldn't mean anything to anybody. And I think Chad probably echoed, but Jiro Dreams of Sushi was a big influence, I think, on the shooting style for him. And he did a beautiful job filming it. I mean, aside, the film is an art piece as well, I would say. You know, it's kind of like, I've said as some friends, like watching Blade Runner 2049, if anyone's watched that, it's just beautiful to watch. The story is great too, but it's just a beautiful film. And it takes its time fleshing everything out and engages the viewer. Chad, go ahead. I mean, that's
I think for this, I mean, I work as a cinematographer mainly. So when I had this opportunity to step into the directing role in a sort of low pressure way, it was like, oh man, I got all these like things I want to explore, like visually. And I'm a big fan of Stanley Kubrick, like 2001 Space Odyssey. And so there was like a bit of that I wanted to just try out. And it was like, you know, as a first film, just wanted to try sort of everything, but also make it as visually compelling as possible. So like when when we were starting this, I was working with a directing friend of mine, and one of our short films had gotten into a lot of the top tier festivals around the country. It's a short film called It Ain't Over, and it's on Vimeo. So we went to South by Southwest with it, and I didn't go to Telluride, but it went there. But I went to Silver Docs, or AFI Silver Docs, and that's a complete documentary festival. So I was like just there. We had just started the film, and I was like absorbing all of these documentaries, knowing that I wanted to step into that role. And I was blown away with how creative the documentary platform can be and has become, where it's such a free form way of storytelling, and you can do just about anything you want cinematically. So one of the films I saw there was The Imposter, which is a really well done documentary about a guy who impersonated a dead child and went into the family and everything. But the cinematic techniques they used were just jaw dropping, and I was like, am I watching a movie or documentary? You know, like it blended that so well. And I was like, I want to do something like that where it feels like you're watching a movie, or it's like, how could this be real? It's too good, you know. And then Jiro Dreams of Sushi was the staple, or like the one I studied the most as far as like character breakdown, and because it had so much, the themes were like spot on with like passing a trade down from a master to the apprentice, or especially a family member. So those two, and like people picked up on it. Reviewers said this is like you know, treats its subjects with the same dedication as Jiro Dreams of Sushi, one person said. And what my favorite was the lead editor of American Cinematographer, which is a trade journal that I you know, worship and adore. He saw it because it was in a festival where he was a judge, and we didn't win the cinematography award, but we got like special mention. And he said, this is like the 2001 The Space Odyssey of pipe making documentaries. I was like, oh, I'll take it.
Chad, just to quickly check, since you're a Space Odyssey fan, I am as well, to be honest.
Sure.
Do you know how they filmed the Little Red Light for Hell? Do you know what they actually used to make that?
No, I don't.
It's actually an old Soviet lens with a red light behind it. And I
Really?
found that out because I bought one of these lenses for an old camera I had, because I really like old Soviet lenses. They have a very unique feel to them. And the guy selling me asked me, "Are you building like a HAL replica?" And I was like, "No, I just want that lens." And he explained that to me. So.
Oh wow! Congrats.
Now you know something else that you didn't know about the Space Odyssey.
You should make like a little replica that you install into your wall or something like that.
Yeah, well, if I can still find the exact details for the lens, I'll send it to you. You can make one.
Definitely. That sounds awesome.
Fellas, just go ahead and jump in if you got questions for Rush and Chad, and anything at all. I can already tell they've got lots of stories, so just jump in there and ask whatever you feel like.
I would
got
like to
one more. You go first, please.
Well, mine's just a quick thank you, really, to Chad and Rush. John Enger here in Minnesota. We did a screening of the film at a theater for our.
Oh yeah, I remember you guys doing that.
Yeah, it was great. It was a fun evening. I think our club loved it. We had people. My goal was to get people outside the club to come in, hopefully just to see the film, which we had. So that was really cool. So appreciate the opportunity. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for hosting. Didn't Lee come out for that too?
Yeah, Lee was here, and Lee's from Minnesota, so we got the local connection. And yeah, he presented, did Q&A, and it was really cool.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, thanks, John. It's good to see you. I missed the Chicago show this year. I've been at literally every year since like 2012. But you know, and it'll be at a different place next year. But I'm looking forward to going back.
All right. Any other questions, guys?
Yeah, actually, I do have another one, and then I'll definitely shut up because I've been talking as much as you guys, I think. Maybe the first is a really quick one. Was the movie a financial success? And that's very unpolite to ask, but I have a serious follow-up question, and you're more than welcome to say.
Just remember that Bart's Dutch, so that's. You know.
yeah, it's part of the problem.
Yeah, like documentaries are not in general, or it's very much more rare to make a lot of money with them. So yeah, it's more of a labor of love than a financial venture.
It didn't bankrupt you. Let's put it like that. I mean, I'm not interested if you make a lot of money on it.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm interested whether it's a financially solid product to make for your investors.
No, I wouldn't say that. I think like yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I think for us, like my idea of financial success in the film is we pay back, you know, the people that our money owed on the back end, before we can take our cut. And we're more than halfway there with that, which is I'm very thankful for. But yeah, it's like Chad says, it's a labor of love, and we were very fortunate to have people who donated money, whether fans or we had Sutliff, Savinelli, and a few others, Smoking Pipes, donate some money to keep the production going, which was fantastic for us, and we feel very fortunate and very thankful to them for that. And at the end of the day, it's like it's a labor of love, and I absolutely agree with Chad on that. And in our first couple quarters, we have gotten some money, and I'm very thankful for that. I'm very thankful that we're going to be able to pay on the back end, and God willing, we will make some money for Father the Flame itself, and be able to maybe go down to Louisiana and talk to Mark Ryan, or do some other tobacco pipe related
there you go.
film shoots. So
because this is exactly the reason I'm asking, because you're talking to a very niche audience. I think it's something that can be viewed by quite a broad audience, but you need to pique that initial interest, which is hard because it's a very specific subject.
Right.
And
yeah,
that's why I asked, because go on.
Another thing to add to that is like if you add up all the money that was donated to the film, like every dollar that was put in, I don't know if we'll ever like
break the bank, break the balance. Yeah.
Because in terms of like the dollars that were put in that we owe back, that will hopefully break even. But like the rest of it is like I don't know. And part of that I learned afterwards is there's so many restrictions on advertising for tobacco.
Yeah, exactly.
So had envisioned doing like a lot of Facebook ads. I haven't really gone down the YouTube route, but Facebook and Instagram both shut us down just for doing like simple, hey, are you into craft? And crafting things? And they're like, no, you can't promote tobacco, sorry. And they just shut us down. So it was
I think this is something you will see everywhere. In
Yeah,
Holland, it's so bad that if you sell tobacco, most banks won't open a bank account for you. So as a shop, it's almost impossible to open a bank account just for a store that sells tobacco. So, yeah.
Right.
So let me
big limiter.
throw out a moment of encouragement then. Just at least a token of what we can do. So like John was talking about when he did a screening for his club, you know, there's a minimal fee that Chad and Rush and the Follow the Flame group are charging for it. You know, we were delighted to pay it. If you've got a club, or if you want to do a screening, maybe talk to these guys about the possibility of doing one like we did. I don't know, it's up to them, but that brings in a few dollars and it spreads the word. And before they charge what they should be charging for it, get in now and, and rent the movie for replay at your local club there. It's a great movie, and you know people love to listen to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, and David, for sure. Yeah, if the zombie apocalypse is not continuing, we'll be in Chicago. It's with you. Absolutely.
So let me, Bart, let me hold on a second. I want to do a little more steering just because of the clock. And I don't know, you and I are thinking a lot alike these days. Maybe this is your question. So Chad and Rush, you've touched on it a little bit, but you've got more footage that you've been putting out on your YouTube channel. You want to talk about that a little bit and how we can, you know, keep watching the movie even though the movie's over?
Yeah, definitely. If you go to YouTube and search for Father the Flame, you'll find our channel pretty easily. There's a one on Mimo, and what was the first one?
First one was on the Danish Pipe Shop.
Yeah, the Danish Pipe Shop, and then like a teaser. I was planning to get a bunch more out before the show in Chicago, and then the whole virus thing happened, and you know, had to play catch up elsewhere. But we're still planning to put those out. But it would be great if you could subscribe, and you know, it helps the channel out and increase visibility. You gotta, the way YouTube works, and this is where we transitioned, seeing as how we can't really advertise, is trying to build organic growth. So the way YouTube works is like you have to have numbers to get numbers, and they'll start recommending your videos, and that's like the biggest way to increase visibility and view count, which can lead to AdSense and stuff like that. But we need that initial kind of like subscriber base and minutes watched and stuff like that.
Just for everybody else who's not a YouTuber, like he needs 1,000 subscribers before they can do certain kinds of advertising and monetizing and whatnot. So
we're almost there. We got like 30 left or something.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, you're going to get the rest of the 30 today.
Yeah, everybody go. Yeah, that'd be great. We'll definitely do like a little celebratory post about that. And then, yeah, I'm hoping to transition into getting back into those videos so we can start releasing them again. And it's really great stuff. I'd be curious what you guys would want to see more of, if there's any threads that you would want to like pull more from the story.
That's a great question.
That's your cue, guys.
Well, for me, it's definitely the allure of the story overall. So each individual story of the characters, now that you're able to take a deep dive with them, I find that really interesting. Or any subject of the film, you're able to take a deeper dive. So for me, it's the story of what's baked into that.
Yeah, and there's definitely a few of those you will see. Example, John, who you meet, and Chad, what reminded me of his last name? You meet him in the Chicago Pipe Show. Yeah, John Warner. Like he's got a whole story of himself that we filmed, and they were pulling teeth of trying to keep him in and trying to make him go, and at the end of the day, we had to cut him out. But he's got a very unique story, and it's fantastic to meet this guy in the film, and then you're like, kind of like, wait, that's it? Well, sadly it is, but you know, because at the end of the day, if you transition to his story, you really would have gone like, okay, this doesn't meet the overall arcing part of the Father of the Flame story. But as a mini series, absolutely, and it's great because he gets his own story to himself, and you get to learn about him and the things he did. And I'm not giving away anything. You're gonna be surprised when you see his story and just go, whoa, that's wild. Like, I love it. I love his aspect of his story, who he is, what he does for his job, and everything else. It's wild.
Mm-hmm. What would your thoughts be in terms of what to include kind of going forward in some of your work about getting in touch with and interviewing or bringing the stories to light of some of the pipe shops or pipe tobacco stores that have been around for a long time and are still, they're still surviving?
Oh, that's a great question. Chad and I have talked about this, not at length, but we've definitely been talking about it. We'd love to go to Juan Reese in Chicago, and they've been around I think they're literally the oldest brick and mortar in the States, and it would be great to have their story told. And I can't remember, there's one out in Cali too. I think it's been around for a while, but there's the stories behind that. I mean, we could do one on the Country Squire too, like their story, their legacy, and how, they're involved with their community and everything else, and the people they reach outside of their county, state, everything else.
We're planning on getting JD and Bo to be a guest speaker here as well. So
awesome.
We're working on it.
Well worth it. It's Bo's birthday today, by the way. Just throwing that out there. I don't know.
Yeah, I think those guys are great. And like the CPC, the Chicago Pipe Club, named myself Master of Pipes for the hobby side this year, and JD was the Master of Pipes for the business side, industry,
right?
So
something like that.
Very cool. Very grateful for that. And but I've been really impressed by their podcasts and their enthusiasm and knowledge of pipes.
Let's not step over that one last thing there. Chad was named Master of the Pipes by the Chicago Pipe Club for his contribution to pipe culture through the movie. And that's huge, dude. That's huge. I'm going like.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel so grateful about that. And it's one of the reasons it's kind of a bummer that the show didn't happen this year is like, oh, that would have been nice to, experience that with everyone and make it more real. But it's super cool.
Well, if you're there next year, Chad, you will experience it.
Nice.
That's right, he will.
Yeah, because I talked to Rich Esterman, who's a good friend of mine, and that's absolutely what they're planning to do, is bring you guys up next year if the show's up. So
that's awesome.
Very, very, very proud of you, my friend.
That's cool. Thank you.
You guys going to be in Vegas this year?
Is Vegas still going to be happening? That's one show we have not done, and it's one we've wanted to do, but it just has not worked out for us. Because I've been wanting to do the West Coast. Chad and I were talking about doing it. Was it 2 years ago? I think. Mm-hmm. And it just hasn't happened because we'd love to do a premiere and show the film out there as well. But I haven't heard anything on if it's a go or a no go, given our current situation with the pandemic.
I haven't seen anything saying it was canceled. I haven't been following it really close, but I was planning to go, so I have been kind of keeping an eye on it. So I'm still
no. Okay, cool. Is it still November?
It's the end of October, beginning of November.
Okay, cool.
Law Dog, do you know any more about that?
Yeah, right now it's still on. The biggest problem for some folks is that it's on Halloween night, and so that's going to be a limitation. They had a conflict with the next weekend, which they had moved it to because of the conflict with Halloween. But there's some big show the next weekend that caused them to push it back.
All right. Well, I guess we're gonna have to have a powwow, Chad, and figure this out, and then talk to the powers that be out in the West Coast show and figure that out.
We have been looking at going to the
touch with Marty Pulvers. Marty Pulvers will keep you updated.
Okay.
Thank you.
We
Thanks,
have been
guys.
looking at going to the Richmond show, which is in October. I've been talking to Ted at Smoking Pipes about that.
We'd love to see you there, Chad.
Yeah, I'm hoping it works out. So it's definitely on our radar.
And Rush, I know you don't remember me, but I did meet you at the Richmond show when you were there.
I feel like I do remember you.
I didn't have this right here.
No?
No, I'm a retired law enforcement officer. So while I was doing the pipe shows while I was working,
yeah,
I didn't have this. So I looked a little different, but I remember
Okay.
I remember you stopping by our table.
Well, it's good to see you again.
You as well.
Actually, that's another, speaking of that, Chad and I were just emailing back and forth about coming down as long as Richmond's still doing theirs as well.
Yeah, as of right now, they are, and they've actually turned it into a 2-day show. Friday will be, the tobacco factory tours and some other get-togethers and things like that. And then Saturday will be the show with some other things going on. They had the tobacco factory tour during the show this past year, but they decided to break it up into 2 days.
That'll be fantastic.
Yeah.
Because even my roommate and I were talking about that as well. And then Chad emailed me and I was like, dude, we should totally go because I'm already planning on going anyways. So hopefully we'll see you soon.
That'd be outstanding. And I actually went upstairs to get my copy of this.
Ah, there you go.
And I actually had it signed by Lee, who is a good friend of mine. So I'm going to bring it to Richmond so you guys can sign it too.
You got it. You got it.
And that's something that that we're working on as well. Due to weird red tape with our distributor, they didn't want to do Blu-rays, but it's going to be like a even higher quality version of the film. But we're allowed to make them and distribute them at live shows and screenings and stuff like that. So that's a big part of what we want to do when we go there, is just have a big stack of Blu-rays with all the extra features and stuff on it too.
Fantastic. You've got one sold for sure.
All right.
All right.
Make that two.
Yeah, I mean, I love owning the physical media of a film, like even to this day, like and nowadays most films you can buy, you buy the Blu-ray and then comes with a digital code and a DVD. So it's like you get all the versions that you could want. We can't do that with ours, but like at least we can get some physical media in people's hands, which I
that's something you have to work out in the contract with your next publisher.
Yeah.
I did that with my publisher on the last contracts I had, because you can see the future, man. You can see it. It's not going to be limited to one distribution medium. So you need to get rights to all of them.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. And that was, to Chad and I, this was our first go as a full-length feature. We've done short films. I've produced, he's been DP for a lot of feature lengths as well. But me, producing short pieces, whether music videos or short film or whatever other kind of ad content. And then for us to just jump in, like, what are we doing? And we're very thankful for the beautiful product we had. But yeah, like we did try and negotiate certain things, doing a Blu-ray plus DVD idea and digital, but they just were not budging. And I think the fact of, and Chad, correct me if I'm wrong, we had such a short window to get everything done for them, I think hindered us as well. because we actually had a couple people look through our contract to amend certain things that we weren't comfortable with and whatnot, but they would not budge on the DVD thing. And we were disappointed for sure. And I understand they've got a business to run as well.
It's
yeah,
it's the nature of the beast with a lot of these, middle tier distributors, that they just can make so much more money on just the digital world that they don't want to put up much towards the physical media unless it's a higher profile film, which ours wasn't. We didn't win any festivals or we weren't in a lot of the top tier festivals. We were in the Chicago International Festival, which is amazing, but that was kind of about it as far as like the reaching the horizon of noteworthy films and stuff. So
did you say you were at South by?
I was there for a film that I shot, a short film that I was the cinematographer on in 2012.
This seems like a natural for that.
Yeah,
we were kind of disappointed, and I don't know. I feel like if the film had come out maybe a couple years earlier, the political climate would have been more receptive. But like at the time when it came out was 2018, 2017ish when we were submitting, and it was just like, for the documentary world, it was just much more politically charged for the higher tier stuff, and we weren't a demographic that people were very interested in at the time. Bunch of older white dudes. So it's like, I don't know. It to me, yeah.
But older white dudes, those are our people.
Yeah, right. But there's a lot of festivals weren't willing to take that risk per se, but the Chicago International Festival did, and it was awesome. Like I was just at a friend's house one afternoon, and the programmer from that festival called me up and said like, "Hey, Chad, I just screened your film, and like I don't call people often, but I wanted to say like I'm blown away, and I'm really excited to program this for next year's festival." And I was like, "Oh, thank God." It was such a great call to receive, that someone was just so floored about it, and like that's how we ended up getting the distribution that we did. That festival.
Once again, this is something that we as a community and as a club can maybe make a tiny dent with. So every one of you guys have 300 friends at least, I've been watching. When you post little something on your page or in your Instagram, or, the email you send out at Christmas time to the family, talk up the movie, man. And because somebody knows somebody who's the head judge at one of these film festivals, and that's how these guys will get in.
Father the Flame is also a good Father's Day gift, perhaps, if you know somebody. Coming up soon, guys.
Oh, yeah.
You say that a little bit louder. My wife's in the other room over there. So.
Oh yeah, Father's Day is coming up, and Father the Flame is a great gift, I would say. Yes. I'll also add to Chad, when the programmer, when we did our official screening for the world premiere in Chicago, he got up and spoke and said, he goes, I don't smoke, I don't like smoking, but this film is amazing and people need to watch it. You need to see it. He goes, really, it doesn't have anything to do with smoking. It's about these people's stories and their lives and everything else. And it was just a breath of fresh air to go, if this guy gets it, I think everyone else will get it. Because we're not trying to promote smoking, really. Like, we're trying to tell a great story about people who have a beautiful craft and something to say. And yeah, this is a great tool. I love it. I love relaxing with it. I have insane, weird conversations, beneficial conversations with it. It's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was pretty hopeful that the world at large would just give it a shot, and all the reviews on iTunes and Amazon and stuff have been really, really positive, of people that say like, I've never smoked, never thought about it, but watching this film really blew me away, and I was really moved by it. So it's just hard to get that message out, that it's not just for the niche audience. But yeah, if any of you have bought it on iTunes, definitely go leave a review, because that also helps boost the standings in iTunes and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just a little tough to get the word out.
And I will say to everyone that has at this point purchased it, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the point during our Saturday meetings. I sort of try to start to wind things down a little bit, because I know that many of you have promised your spouses or your family members that you weren't going to be going all afternoon. We're not done yet. So don't get me wrong. I'm not rushing anybody out the door, but we're moving in that direction. So thank you so far for all the questions you've been asking from Rush and Chad. How about something that's off the wall? Something that, apropos of nothing, could be about the film, could be about them personally. I mean, obviously we have, did you guys get that Rush makes headstones for graveyards? Like I think there's some stories here that we need to hear about. So if you guys have other questions, jump in.
Well, Rush, that sounds like a dying art, but I'm glad you're in it.
Thank you. Yeah, it might be a bad joke, but I just tell everybody, at least I have job security, because I mean, pun intended or no pun intended, it does seem to be a dying art. I'm very thankful for the job. I've been there for 22 years this come August, and somehow managed to go to film school in between all that. And but yeah, I've had some great times. I've had some terrible times, but I work for a great company, and we cover the whole state of Michigan, upper and lower peninsulas, and parts of northern Ohio and Indiana. It's wild. Our reach, but our facility is huge. So
do you guys do ornamental or just the standard block, or I mean, is there artistic value to it?
So for us, I mean, there's everything. We actually used to do, not just strictly monuments. We did big signages for communities, subdivisions. We still do stuff for. We have a whole nother section where we do bricks for different areas. Like in our town, we have an arena where people bought bricks and had their names engraved in it. So we kind of have our fingers a little bit in everything too. And for us, a quick idea of how the process works is all the monuments come in pre-cut from the quarry. So the size, the color, everything comes in pre-cut. And then I run the front end of production. So we get the monument, make sure everything's the right color, size, put the design templates on it, which is a rubber stencil. And then the designs are all cut into that stencil. And then we pull out the lines for the names, dates, whatever designs in it. And that's how the stone gets engraved. So whatever granite is exposed, we use big sandblasts, air pressured sandblasts, to engrave them. And then once they're done, they have a paint put in them so that the lettering and designs will pop out more. And then they get washed, and then they're set off to our trucking department that delivers them.
How did you get into this craft? Because I don't remember when I was 6, I thought I'm going to cut tombstones.
Yeah, I definitely didn't have that idea either. I definitely was more on, I want to do film stuff, music videos and whatnot. And slowly but surely, I did end up doing that. That's definitely more of a hobby at this point. But really, I needed a job. Once I got out of undergrad, moved back home, I needed a different job because the job I had doing roofing wasn't going to last long. And so a new friend of mine at the time had just gotten to the job where I'm at and had told me about it. And I came in, applied, called a week later, and they called me in for an interview, and I've been there ever since.
Rush, I thought of one more thing you could tell people about your job.
Yeah.
You are a gentleman who always gets the last word
Ooh, touche. True story. True story.
Also, people are just dying to get that product.
That's great.
They're dying to get in. Yes.
What's the weirdest thing you ever put on one of these stones? Because I'm just waiting for my wife to put something on it, like he did something stupid again. I told him to unplug the angle grinder. Will probably be like the last words on my stone.
She's gonna say, "What took you so long?"
I have a handful of, not even a handful, just a couple. I've seen one that said the nicest ass in town, and I'm just like, can we actually put that on there? And yeah, sure. Sure. I mean, they're paying for it. And then the one had the husband and wife, and they had nicknames underneath. I do not remember what his was, but hers said "bitch" at the bottom, and I was just floored. I couldn't. I was like, okay. Another one said "fuck the world," and then we had one recently. I don't remember the full thing, but the word "motherfucker" was on it, and I'm just like, okay. So I mean, those are like the weirdest things I've seen come through, and more of my buddy sitting here in the living room goes, "I want that on mine." But yeah, I mean, those are the for me the strangest and most unique things I've seen on a stone.
That's
How
crazy.
about I told you it was more than heartburn?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Told
have
you I
seen
was
that.
sick.
I've seen that one. I told you I was sick. I love that one.
Yeah, I hope that mine will read, "Died happy with a smile on my face, pipe in one hand and glass of bourbon in the other."
Yes. I love
I
it.
want mine to read, "He's not really here."
Oh, yes.
That's good.
That's right. That's right.
That's awesome.
Well,
Hey, Chad, I like the video you did with your daughter. That project. Was it for school?
Oh yeah.
Was it Legos or?
Yes. Yeah, that was for her Bible class at school. Just they needed to do like a response to a story.
So I'm thinking your daughter, brings in a fully produced film project that your dad helped out on. Like, wow, that's pretty cool.
I know. I made another one that I've got to post yet, but it's Jesus calming the storm, and we filmed in our pool here with like in slow motion with the Legos and spraying water on them and the waves and everything. It was so much fun. And I bought this lens that's just a crazy macro lens that's like a tube. And at the end of it is like a 24 millimeter, and it just can go like super close to stuff, and it makes it feel really big. And
It's the one with like the LED circle around it, right?
Yeah.
I saw. That's a really cool thing.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I bought it for the first project that I needed it professionally, where they're like, we want to do some macros of this product. And I was like, I got you covered. I'll save like a little bit money by renting it out to you, but I still haven't paid it off yet, but it's still like a great tool just to have around, and I'm going to use it like crazy for a long time. But it's so funny to me that during the quarantine times, it's like, that's what I'm doing is using that for Legos.
Maybe let me ask you another question. What's the camera you're using? Because the lens is, I mean, this is a lens I know, and I'm now curious to what kind of other gear and cool
Yeah.
you go.
For most of the work that I do professionally, I use an Alexa Mini, and it's rented from various suppliers, or a Red Epic, some flavor of that. But the one that I own, which is only like a $2,000 camera, is a Panasonic Lumix S1, and it's just a revolutionary like 4K camera. It's a mirrorless camera, very small, but it can record in 10-bit color and 4K at 422 color space, which is a good color space, and for like minuscule file size, and it's like 80% the quality of these cinema cameras. So it's perfect for personal projects, and I've filmed some more professional videos with it as well. It's amazing for the price what you can get now. It's just like every camera manufacturer is competing with each other to offer the most specs, and it's a great time for filmmakers.
It is. Thanks.
That's a really interesting thing to know, of that you get such high quality from such an affordable camera.
Yeah. And for the film, we use the red for the 90% of it. There was like a little bit that I filmed on a 5D in the raw form, which was a 16-bit color, and so it's like it was mostly like 5K, 6K or somewhere in there. And then for that camera, don't tell our distributor, but it was only 1080 for those scenes.
Again, for those of you who like aren't into cameras and whatnot, a red is a high-end cinematography camera that some of those models are $30,000-$40,000. So you're trekking through Europe with a $40,000 camera that you've rented, and so you're always nervous when you're out on site.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
This is the Panasonic, which, as you can see, it's like very small, but you can build it out, you know, with like a monitor.
Is that a light you got on top there? It's like a
no, it's a monitor.
Oh, right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's a cool setup.
Yeah, and it's super lightweight. It's got its own internal stabilizer, so the sensor itself is has a mechanical stabilizer, which like really does wonders. You can do handheld shots that look almost like a tripod.
Have they included the technology where both like the body stabilization and the lens stabilization work together? Because I saw this on some new Sony cameras, and that really blew me away. It was insane.
Yeah, I think you can work them together. It's not as like perfect as like a gimbal, but for what it is, it's just incredible what you can do. So for run and gun filmmaking, it's just amazing.
So this is the moment I'm going to jump in, just because I can see that people are starting to file on out. Again, always cool. For those of you who might be new, I think everybody that I can see here has been here before, but there's no rules about us coming in. I always say, you know, come when you can, leave when you need to. But this is about the time of the afternoon where we've been here for a couple hours almost, and so I'm going to wind it down. The first thing I want to say is a huge thank you to Chad and Rush. And if you guys want to turn your mics on and give them a big round of applause, I think that would be appropriate. So there we go.
Yes, thank you. Thank you
very much, everyone.
Yeah,
we'd love to have you
it.
back. I can just tell you right now, we'd love to have you back talking maybe more about the additional short subjects that you're creating for the YouTube channel. And, you know, absolutely, if you got another short film that you're planning on making, we'll all be your extras, you know, just
nice.
For those of you in the group here who have been in a cave for the last month and haven't gone over to the Facebook page and signed up for the Virtual Pipe Club, get over there and do it. Just sign up, you know, because like a lot of you know, I try to take the time to make a personal invitation to everybody. And so if you're in the members list there, I can send out some word to you. I'm keeping my eye out for whenever any esoterica gets made and shipped to the US. So I'll try to send out an early warning if it ever happens. And so that's another reason to be on that list, but please go on over there and do that. Remember to subscribe to the Father of the Flame channel on YouTube, and might not hurt to go over to, they have a Facebook page also that you could, you know, throw a couple of comments on and say, these guys are awesome. Or you could say, these guys suck, because it doesn't matter what you say. Engagement is engagement and helps the algorithm. So,
That's right.
You're right. Give us that
but you guys are awesome.
Yeah, David, thank you again for having us. Absolutely. Everyone else, thanks for showing up. I'm definitely down to come back and hang out. I'm sure Chad is as well. And even if it's just not us talking, I'm down to come back for another just hang out and see who else is having a conversation too.
We would love to have you. You don't have to wait to be invited as a guest speaker. Please, you're more than welcome. We had Tom Eltang here a few weeks ago, and Tom said the same thing. He says, "Yeah, I think I'd like to come and hang out, whenever." So you never know who's going to show up.
Yeah, that's awesome. Super. This has been great. I might definitely stop by again.
All right. Well, on that note, gentlemen, I think it's time to go have a beer, I guess. So thank you all for being here. Have an awesome Memorial Day.
Yeah, you
awesome.
too.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Peace.